My father's last words to me weren't a goodbye. They were a death sentence. No daughter of mine works with computers. Then he ripped up my scholarship letter, right in front of me, tore it into tiny pieces and threw them in my face like confetti at a funeral. My mother? She just stood there, said nothing, did nothing. I was 22 years old, holding $900, a broken laptop, and a dream everyone said was stupid. I had nowhere to go. No plan B, nothing. Fast forward 3 years. Forbes puts my face in their magazine. My cybersecurity company is protecting billion-dollar corporations. And guess what? My family came crawling back. Not to say sorry, not to hug me, to beg me to save their dying business. They called me worthless. I became the one thing they desperately needed. This is how I did it. Let me take you back to that day. The day everything exploded. It was a Tuesday afternoon in Coral Gables, Florida. You know those neighborhoods where everyone drives luxury cars and lives in massive white houses with palm trees? That was us. Old money, corporate lawyers, country club memberships, the whole package. I walked through the front door holding the most important piece of paper of my life. A full scholarship to study cybersecurity. Everything paid for. Tuition, books, housing, everything. I thought my parents would be proud. I was so wrong. My father was standing in the living room, arms crossed. My mother sat on the sofa, hands folded, lips pressed tight. They looked like they were attending a funeral. "We need to talk," my father said. His voice was ice cold. I told him about the scholarship. I was smiling, excited, buzzing with joy. "Dad, this is incredible. Cybersecurity is the future. Companies are desperate for people who can protect their systems." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "You already have a job waiting," he said. "Your cousin Daniel got you a position at the firm. Finance. A real career. Respectable." I tried to explain. I didn't want to audit spreadsheets for the rest of my life. I wanted to build something. I wanted to stop hackers, prevent data breaches, protect people from criminals who ruin lives. I wanted to matter. That's when he exploded. "You think playing with computers is a career?" he shouted. His face turned red, veins bulged in his neck. "You think you know better than me? Better than this entire family?" Before I could respond, he ripped the scholarship letter out of my hands, tore it into pieces, again and again until it was confetti falling on the marble floor. "No daughter of mine works in the tech industry," he said, voice shaking with rage. "If you want to destroy your future, do it somewhere else. Not under my roof." I looked at my mother. Surely she'd say something. Surely she'd defend me. She stared at the floor, silent. My father pointed at the door. "Get out." I didn't cry. I was too shocked. I grabbed my backpack, the one stuffed with charging cables and a cracked laptop I'd bought with tutoring money. I walked to the door. He slammed it behind me so hard the windows shook. I stood there in the driveway, sweating in the Florida heat, and took inventory. $900 in my bank account. A 12-year-old Toyota that barely started. No family, no safety net, no backup plan. But here's what they didn't know. In my Dropbox, buried in a folder called School Projects, I had something they couldn't see, a prototype. The early version of a cybersecurity tool I'd been building for 2 years. A system that could detect hackers before they struck. I called it Sentinel. My father thought he was throwing out a failure. He had no idea he'd just unleashed something he'd one day desperately need. I got in my car and drove away from that house. I didn't look back. The girl they kicked out? She was about to become the woman they'd begged to save them. I moved into the worst apartment you can imagine. Seriously. It was in a rundown part of Miami, the kind of place where the AC barely worked and you could hear your neighbors arguing through paper-thin walls. Roaches? Yeah, we had those. The bathroom door didn't lock. The kitchen was basically a hot plate and a mini fridge that buzzed like a dying bee. My roommate was a woman named Alina. She was a bartender at some club downtown. She worked nights, slept during the day, and survived on tips and leftover fries she'd bring home in greasy paper bags. But you know what? Alina never judged me. Never asked why I was sleeping on an air mattress in the corner or why I ate ramen 5 nights a week. She just gave me the kitchen desk and said, "Don't hog the Wi-Fi." That desk became my entire world. During the day, I worked at a help desk for a second-tier cloud company. You know the job. People calling in asking, "Why won't my screen turn on?" Or, "Do I need to restart my computer?" I'd smile through the phone, solve their problem in 30 seconds, and count down the hours until I could go home and do real work. At night, I coded. Hours and hours of code. Building Sentinel line by line, testing it, breaking it, fixing it, improving it. My eyes burned. My back ached. I drank so much coffee I started seeing double. But I kept going because I believed in it. I had to. Some nights, I'd open LinkedIn. Big mistake. I'd see my cousin Daniel posting photos in expensive suits, shaking hands with politicians, getting awards at my dad's firm. Promoted to senior analyst. Keynote speaker at the finance summit. Meanwhile, I was debugging code at 2 a.m. in an apartment that smelled like old takeout. I'd close the tab, bite down the jealousy, and keep typing. The breakthrough came 6 months later. It was a Thursday night just after 1 a.m. I was running a test, a simulated data breach, small vulnerabilities, the kind most systems ignore, tiny cracks in the armor. My system didn't ignore them. Green dot, green dot, green dot. Then, suddenly, red. Breach detected. My code worked. It actually worked. I didn't scream. I didn't dance. I just sat there staring at the screen, whispering to myself, "It works. It actually works." That night, I opened a new folder. Sentinel version 1.0. The next year was brutal. I built version after version. Faster, smarter, leaner. I posted anonymous entries on cybersecurity forums. I applied to every hackathon within driving distance. I won some, lost most. But every single time I presented Sentinel, someone would ask, "You built this yourself?" Yes, alone, in a roach-infested apartment while eating leftover fries. Nobody asked who taught me. Good thing, because the answer was nobody. The people who should have believed in me didn't. 2 years in, something shifted. A recruiter from a fintech startup reached out after reading one of my blog posts about credential stuffing. They offered me a part-time security consultant gig. The pay wasn't great, but the access? Gold. Their back-end systems were a disaster. Vulnerabilities everywhere. I didn't exploit them. I documented them. Privately. Every flaw I found became a feature in my own tool. They paid me to see their weaknesses. I used that knowledge to build my strength. One night, Alina came home tipsy and tossed a magazine on the table. Wired. The cover story was Top 10 Young Cyber Innovators to Watch. I wasn't on the list, but one of the guys featured? He was quoting a blog post I'd written under a fake name. I smiled. It wasn't my time yet. Because some seeds grow quietly. Some empires are built in silence. My father thought silence meant failure. He had no idea I was building something invisible, something powerful, something that would one day make him pick up the phone and say the words I never thought I'd hear. "We need you." But that part? That comes later. Right now, I was still in the shadows, still coding, still hungry. And I was just getting started. 6 months after Alina threw that Wired magazine on our table, I got an email that changed everything. The subject line was simple. Request for consult. Urgent breach question. The sender was a compliance officer from a mid-sized fintech company I'd never heard of. Let's call them Blue Peak. They'd found one of my blog posts after Googling anomaly detection and credential leakage. I didn't get excited. These emails usually led nowhere. But when I opened it, something felt different. "We believe we've suffered a silent breach," they wrote. No ransomware, no shutdown, just quiet abnormalities in our logs. Would you be willing to review them? We'll pay your standard hourly rate. Confidentiality agreement attached. Here's the thing. I didn't have a standard rate. I didn't even have an invoice template. But I replied like I did this every day. $150 per hour. They responded instantly. Send over an NDA. We'll pay for 10 hours up front. I stared at the screen. This was it, my first real cybersecurity contract. Not a support ticket, not a bug bounty. A proper consulting gig. The breach wasn't dramatic, but it was real. The kind that quietly siphons customer data for months without anyone noticing. A misconfigured API endpoint buried in legacy code. I found it in 48 hours, flagged it, wrote up a patch, sent a full report. They paid me within the week. Then they asked the question that changed my life. Do you have a tool we could license? I stayed up 3 nights straight. I stripped Sentinel down to its core, added a dashboard, created a simple user interface. Nothing flashy, just pure functionality. When I sent them the demo, their head of IT called me. How is this not on the market? I'm still building it, I said. Well, he replied, you should keep going. Word spread fast. Quietly, but fast. Through cybersecurity Slack groups, compliance message boards, referrals from people who'd seen me at hackathons or stumbled on my code through GitHub. I wasn't trying to build a company. I was just trying to survive and build the best tool I could. But clients kept asking for support. Then customization. Then subscriptions. So I did it. I created a brand, Aurora Risk Systems, registered an LLC, built a website with 3 simple tabs: product, support, contact. I didn't put my name on it. I still remembered my father's words. No daughter of mine works in the tech industry. Fine. Maybe he didn't need to know I was his daughter. Alina quit bartending and became my full-time operations assistant. She helped me set up payroll, track expenses, send invoices. She was the first person who treated my project like a real business, who treated me like a real businesswoman. You know, she said one night over pizza, your dad's an idiot. I laughed. I didn't disagree, but part of me still believed he was right. That maybe I was delusional. That this was all just luck. That voice whispered in the dark hours telling me I wasn't good enough. Then the numbers started coming in. Monthly recurring revenue, $22,340. Annual run rate, $268,000. Profit margin, 87%. No venture capital, no partners. Just me, 2 part-timers, and a product nobody took seriously until it started quietly saving companies millions. One day, my mom texted me. Just a photo, my dad and my cousin at some business banquet. Both in suits, shaking hands with a local politician. No caption. Just the image. Like she wanted to remind me what success was supposed to look like. I stared at it for a moment. Then I opened my sales dashboard. I didn't reply to her text. Instead, I clicked submit on a business license application, converting my LLC into a C corporation. Then came the Forbes email, and everything exploded. The email came through our support inbox. We're compiling our annual 20 under 30 in tech list. Can you connect us with Aurora's founder? Stared at the screen. My hands shook. I'm the founder, I typed. Let me know what time works. The interview was with a journalist named Priya Patel. She asked questions nobody had ever asked. How did you handle rejection from the people who should have supported you? I laughed. You mean besides being thrown out for writing code? You were kicked out for choosing tech? My dad's a corporate lawyer, old money. He said if I wanted to be a computer girl, I could do it elsewhere. She leaned forward. This is going to resonate with so many people. Walking away from your family's expectations doesn't mean you failed. It means you had the courage to build your own path. Courage, I'd never called it that. 2 weeks later, I woke up to 60 notifications, emails, Twitter mentions, LinkedIn requests. I opened Twitter. Forbes. Meet Lauren Vega, 27-year-old founder of Aurora Risk Systems, quietly protecting Fortune 500 companies, 20 under 30, women in tech. Full-page photo, me in a hoodie, monitors glowing behind me. The girl they called Incompetent was now on a global innovators list. That afternoon, my phone rang. Mom. We hadn't spoken in 3 years, not one word. I let it ring. Twice, 3 times. Third call, I answered. Lauren. Her voice was soft. Strange. Yeah. Why didn't you tell us? I almost laughed. I didn't think you'd care. We're your family. You weren't when I needed one. Silence. Your father saw the article. He's shaken. Shaken because I succeeded or because people found out? She didn't answer. He wants to talk. I looked around my condo. Triple monitors, whiteboard covered in product notes, my team on Slack, investor calls filling my calendar. Why, now that I'm worth something? Her voice cracked. Because we didn't understand. You didn't want to. Long pause. He wants to meet. No pressure. I'll think about it. I hung up. 3 days later, an email landed in Aurora's inbox. Subject, please read this, from my dad. A formal letter, typed like a legal document. He apologized. Kind of. Said he'd reacted emotionally, that he feared I was ruining my future, that my world scared him because he didn't understand it. You were building something I couldn't see, he wrote, and I punished you for my ignorance. Then came the final paragraph. I've spoken to the partners at the firm. We'd like to explore securing our infrastructure. Aurora has experience with financial clients. We're willing to pay the audit fee. I read it 3 times. There it was. Not reconciliation, business. They didn't want their daughter back. They needed my company. I sat there for hours staring at that email. Part of me wanted to delete it. Part of me wanted to write something brutal and satisfying. Instead, I opened a new document. Client contract. Standard terms. Full audit fee, $60,000. System monitoring, $10,000 monthly. No negotiation. No family discount. If they wanted me now, they'd pay full price. I hit send. The reply came in 4 minutes. We accept your terms. Finance will wire payment by Friday. I closed my laptop and walked to the window. The Miami skyline glowed in the distance. They'd thrown me out with $900 and called me worthless. Now they were paying me $70,000 just to tell them how broken they were. The girl they disowned had become the expert they desperately needed. And this was just the beginning. I didn't respond to my father's email myself. I had my operations lead, Serena, handle it. She was the type of woman who'd managed merger paperwork during an earthquake without breaking a sweat. Treat them like any other client, I told her. Full intake form, NDA, standard process. Any personal connection I should know about? She asked. They're my family, but don't let that change anything. She nodded. Then I won't. The video call was scheduled for Thursday morning. I logged in 2 minutes early. Camera on, microphone muted, professional. When they joined, it felt like stepping into an alternate reality. My father's hair was grayer than I remembered. His tie was too tight, like he was choking on his own tension. My mother sat beside him, hands folded perfectly on the table, smile thin and polite. A junior partner I didn't recognize sat in the corner, probably taking notes. Lauren, my dad said, trying to sound neutral. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting. I looked directly into the camera. My voice was ice. Aurora Risk Systems welcomes all prospective clients. I saw my mother flinch at the formality. I walked them through the audit process. Compliance standards, threat modeling, endpoint scanning, penetration tests. I'd done this presentation a dozen times, but this one felt different. Every word was a blade. At the end, my father cleared his throat. I've reviewed the scope. We're prepared to move forward with a 6-month contract. We need to restore client trust. You understand? I do, I said flatly. But Aurora doesn't guarantee PR outcomes. We prevent breaches. We don't fix reputations. My mother looked down. Of course, my father replied, voice tight. Then came pricing. $60,000 for the initial audit, $10,000 monthly for ongoing monitoring. No negotiation. He didn't even blink. Our finance department will wire payment by Friday. Desperation smells like instant agreement. You'll receive onboarding documents Monday, I said. Serena will coordinate your start date. He hesitated, then dropped the business tone. Lauren, is there room to discuss reconciliation? Personally, I mean. There it was, the real ask. I paused, let the silence hang. If this audit goes well, I said slowly, and your firm passes our standards without interference or pushback, then maybe we can have a personal conversation. Off the record. He nodded. Fair. The call ended. They disconnected. I stared at the empty screen for a long moment, then closed my laptop and walked out onto the balcony. 2 weeks later, the audit began. Their systems were a disaster. No endpoint encryption, default admin passwords on multiple databases, expired SSL certificates on client portals. It was like walking through a glass building and finding all the fire alarms disconnected. I submitted the initial findings. Brutal, honest, professional. Then something unexpected happened. My cousin Daniel emailed me directly. Subject: Hey, we should catch up. Didn't expect to see you leading this project, but honestly, you were always better than us at this stuff. Let me know if you want to grab a drink. I mean it. I stared at the email. He'd never been cruel. Just silent. Complicit. Quiet during family dinners when my dad mocked me. Silent at my graduation when they joked my degree was worthless. Now he wanted to reconnect. I didn't reply, but I didn't delete it either. By the end of the month, their firm had passed the audit. Barely. We flagged over a dozen critical vulnerabilities, patched them with strict protocols. Aurora saved them. No question. I sent the final report and closed the case. That night, another email. From my mother. Subject: Just coffee. Would you be willing to meet? No agendas, no business, just me and you in a quiet coffee shop. I'd really like that. I stared at the message. My father wanted business. My mother wanted forgiveness. I didn't say yes right away, but I didn't say no either, because maybe the real audit hadn't even started yet. I picked the coffee shop, not out of spite, out of control. It was a quiet corner place in Coconut Grove. Chip tables, ceiling fans humming, handwritten chalkboard menus that hadn't changed in years. The kind of place that smelled like burnt espresso and old wood. I arrived early, ordered an iced coffee, chose the booth farthest from the window. My mother arrived 12 minutes late. Pearl earrings, cream blouse, handbag clutched like armor. Her heels clicked sharp on the tile floor. I stood briefly, nodded. Hi, Mom. Lauren. She smiled softly, eyes darting around nervously. You look successful. I resisted the urge to laugh. Thanks. It's been a busy year. She sat down and folded her hands, the same way she always did when she was uncomfortable. I know. I've read everything. Really? Even the technical stuff? Well, the headlines mostly. She laughed lightly, then stopped when I didn't join her. Silence. You've built something incredible, she said. I stirred my coffee slowly. I did. Without any of you. She flinched, just slightly. I want to apologize, she said quietly, for not standing up for you, for letting him say what he said. I should have. You didn't. My voice was calm, even. Cold. You watched him throw me out. I had nowhere to go, Mom. No plan. And you just stood there. Her lips tightened. I thought it was temporary, that you'd cool off and come back. I didn't cool off, I said. I got focused. She looked up. I could see the years written around her eyes now. Worry, guilt, the weight of missed birthdays and unanswered calls. He didn't mean it, Lauren. Not really. I leaned forward. He meant every word, that I was throwing away my future, that no daughter of his would work in tech, that I was embarrassing the family. Pause. He's proud of you now. I raised an eyebrow. He should be. She swallowed hard. He doesn't know how to say it. I shook my head slowly. He doesn't have to. She looked confused. He doesn't? He had his chance. I'm not here for him. I'm here because you asked. So if there's something you want to say it. But don't speak for him. That's when her voice cracked. I was scared that if I supported you, he'd turn on me too. I didn't know how to choose between you and my marriage. I let that sit for a moment. I didn't ask you to choose, I said, softer now. I asked you to believe in me. She wiped her eye quickly, embarrassed. You were always so smart, but I didn't understand your world. That's okay, I said. You didn't have to understand it. You just had to stop dismissing it. Another long silence. Just the hum of the fans and the clink of cups at other tables. Do you want a relationship with us again? she asked quietly. I considered that. Really considered it. I don't want things to go back to what they were, I said. Because what they were was silence, judgment, and pressure. She nodded slowly. But, I continued, I'm open to something new, something honest, where I don't have to shrink to fit someone's image of me. Her eyes welled up. I would like that. We sat quietly for a while. She asked about my office, my team, whether I was dating anyone. Small talk parents return to when the smoke clears. When we stood to leave, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small worn envelope. Your grandmother asked me to give you this, if you ever made it. Abuela Rosa? She nodded. She always said you were building something bigger than we could see. I think she knew before any of us. I took the envelope gently. Inside was a photo. Me at 14, hunched over my first computer. One of those clunky white towers we'd bought secondhand. Wires tangled everywhere. A look of total concentration on my face. Behind me stood Abuela, grinning like she knew a secret the world hadn't figured out yet. Tucked behind the photo was a handwritten note. Mija, they won't see your power at first, but you keep building. The world will catch up. Love, Abuela. I pressed my lips together to keep them from shaking. Thank you, I whispered. My mother reached out, unsure. I let her touch my shoulder. Let's do this right this time, she said. I gave a small nod. We'll see. That night, back at my condo, I framed the photo, placed it on my shelf next to the Forbes magazine and my first Aurora check. 3 symbols: belief, recognition, independence. I wasn't done building, but maybe, just maybe, I wasn't building alone anymore. 3 months later, a formal invitation arrived in the mail. Thick envelope, gold foil, embossed lettering. You are cordially invited to the 35th anniversary gala of Vega and Associates. Special guest of honor, Lauren Vega, founder and CEO, Aurora Risk Systems. I stared at it in disbelief. No personal note, no apology, just my name in bold letters for the firm that once pretended I didn't exist. A few days later, Serena walked into my office. The Vega firm needs to confirm your attendance. Catering needs numbers. I looked up. Did they pay the renewal fee? Wired last Friday. Of course they did. Tell them I'll be there. But I'm not staying long. The gala was at the Coral Gables Country Club. I hadn't been there in years. Not since I was the awkward cousin checking code on my phone during holiday brunches. This time, I arrived in a sleek black suit. Hair pinned to the back, no +1, no apologies, just me. The ballroom was exactly the same. Arched ceilings, chandeliers, polished marble floors, except now the walls displayed buzzwords like innovation, security, growth. And Aurora's name was everywhere, on guest lists, display screens. My company, once just a folder on a laptop, now sharing space with industry giants. I didn't seek out my parents, but I saw them. My mother stood near the entrance talking to her usual circle. She glanced at me, hesitated, then waved softly. I nodded back. My father kept his distance. He looked tired, like someone who knew the narrative had shifted and wasn't sure how to catch up. Old acquaintances approached throughout the night. We always knew you had something. Your parents must be so proud. Cybersecurity, wow. Didn't see that coming. I smiled politely, shook hands, posed for photos. One cousin whispered, "You proved them all wrong." But I hadn't come to prove anything anymore. I'd outgrown the need to be understood by people who never tried to understand me. Near the end of the evening, Serena nudged me. Your dad's by the exit, alone. I looked over. No spotlight, no microphone, just a man in a suit who once threw his daughter out like trash. Should I get the car? I shook my head. Not yet. I walked toward him slowly. He straightened his jacket, cleared his throat. We stood there for a moment, 2 people who hadn't really spoken in years. You came, he said. You invited me. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't either. He looked around, lowered his voice. Your grandmother would have loved this. I looked down, then back up. She did, even when it was just a plan on a napkin. He nodded, like he wanted to say more but couldn't. Then he simply offered his hand. I took it. It wasn't warm. It wasn't emotional. It was acknowledgement. Maybe that was enough. Back home, I kicked off my shoes, poured wine, and sat at my desk. Abuela Rosa's framed photo watched over everything. Next to it, the Forbes feature. Beside that, my original sticky note. Pattern recognition through passive anomaly detection. The idea that started it all. I pulled out the envelope and read Abuela's letter again. Mija, they won't see your power at first. Keep building. The world will catch up. And I had. I'd built something real. Something valuable. Something they couldn't ignore even if they never fully understood it. Some people are born into legacy. Others write it. And some code it, line by line in silence, until the world can no longer look away.
Have you ever poured your heart into someone else's dream, only to be told you don't belong in the room where it's celebrated? I'm Camilla, 32, and I learned that lesson the hard way at my sister Kay's graduation party, a night I paid for with $850. I didn't have only to be escorted out like a stranger. That moment wasn't just a sting. It was the crack that split open years of silence, revealing a family who used my money, erased my name, and rewrote me as the outsider in their perfect story. Let me take you back to that evening in Minneapolis, where the truth started to unravel and I began to see the cost of my loyalty. The sun was dipping low when I pulled up to the Bloomington estate, its manicured hedges and gurgling fountains screaming wealth I'd never known. Cars lined the street. My dad's crooked pickup, Kay's polished Jeep, but Grandma and Grandpa's Civic was missing a quiet absence that pricked my gut. I'd been covering Kay's rent and tuition for years, skipping dinners to send $750 monthly, $200 each semester. No complaints. I wasn't expecting a parade, just a glance, maybe a nod as I walked up in my clean white blouse and hole-free jeans, hair pulled tight. My phone glowed with a screenshot of the invite scavenged from Mom's Facebook comments. The only way I ever heard about family events. Music floated from the backyard, glasses clinked. Someone toasted, "To the future." And cheers erupted. I was almost there. At the gate, 2 security guards loomed, one lanky one built like a fridge. Private celebration. The bigger one barked. I kept my voice steady. "I'm her sister Camilla." The lanky one tapped his earpiece, muttering while I stood, arms limp, the laughter behind me, sharpening the air. Then the door swung open. Kay glided out in a glittery gold dress. $698, my money phone glued to her hand. Mom followed in her pastel cardigan, Dad unshaven, but smirking. Kay didn't hesitate. "She doesn't belong here," she said, flat as a blade. I laughed, thinking it was a jab, until Dad chuckled. "You showed up!" Mom's voice hissed, urgent. "Camilla, this is Kay's day. Don't make it something it's not." I met her eyes. "You mean like pretending I don't exist?" Dad laughed again. "Come on, you know how things are." Kay sneered. "You only helped to hold it over me. I could have listed every payment, every sacrifice, but instead I said, 'Then you're welcome.'" The gravel crunched under my flats as I walked back to my car. No tears, just a silence heavier than any fight we'd ever had. In the driver's seat, I typed one line, "Starting next month, your rent's on you. Good luck." I hit send, started the engine, and left the estate behind like a book I'd finally closed. Home felt sharper that night, the flickering streetlight on Central Avenue cutting through the dark. I dropped my keys in the bowl, kicked off my shoes, and sank onto the couch, one arm over my eyes. My phone buzzed, blocked caller. I let it ring. Twice more, same number, same silence. I didn't answer, but I didn't turn it off either. Some stubborn part of me wanting to know who couldn't let it go. The night was still the neighbor's TV, humming faintly, a car door slamming in the distance. I saw Kay's face, her gaze sliding past me like I was a delivery driver who'd wandered into her spotlight. They didn't forget me, they chose to erase me. That wasn't new. My birthday buried under a January blizzard had passed without a call, while Kay posted champagne flutes and sparkler desserts captioning, "Grateful for the ones who matter." Mom's text came the next day. "Hope, you're okay. No happy birthday, just a check-in to cover her bases." Weeks later, I noticed a tab in my bank account shared access Judith's name in bold. She'd been tracking every $5 coffee, every late Netflix charge ever since Kay asked me to send rent to Mom's account for easier tracking. I hadn't questioned it. That's what they banked on. 2 weeks before the party, Kay texted, "No greeting. Just need a dress." Budget, I said $200, stretching my limit. She sent a screenshot, a sleeveless gold gown, $698 plus tax. This one. You wouldn't get it, but this demands polish. I missed my bus staring at those words I still paid. Sent the money, got a thumbs up emoji. Her Instagram glowed with the dress, captioned, "Deserve every bit of this moment. No mention of me." The silence wasn't forgetfulness. It was a choice, and I was starting to feel its weight. What's worse than being erased by your own family? Finding out they're laughing about it behind your back. I thought I'd seen the depth of my sister Kay's betrayal at her graduation party, the one I funded for $850 only to be turned away. But a few days later, a message from my cousin Marlene cracked that illusion wide open, showing me just how far Kay's cruelty stretched. That was the moment I stopped swallowing the silence and let the truth spill out. It was a Thursday night, the hum of my space heater, the only sound as I folded towels fresh from the dryer. My phone buzzed, startling me, Marlene's name glowing on the screen. We weren't close. She was younger, quiet at family gatherings, always smiling but saying little. Her text read, "Can I send you something privately? You need to see this." My pulse ticked up, but I typed, "Sure." 3 screenshots landed seconds later, each one a knife. A group chat K plus real ones unfolded before me. Kay's words led the charge. "Told y'all she'd show up, so desperate to be part of everything." Another, "She pays my bills and still gets treated like trash, must love it." Someone else chimed in, "Did she cry? Please tell me she cried." Kay's reply, "Didn't stay long enough. Too bad, I would have filmed it." The second screenshot burned hotter. A stranger asked, "You didn't invite her after she paid all that?" Kay answered, "Why should I? Paying doesn't mean you're family, it means you're useful." The third was a meme my face, an old Facebook photo edited with ATM, but make it sad. I sank onto the couch, the screen's glow harsh in the dark. These weren't careless words, they were sharpened to cut. Marlene texted again. "I was added to that group by accident last year. Never left, just watched." She didn't notice, I was still in it. A pause. "I'm not sending this to be mean. You deserve to know who you're defending." I didn't cry, didn't spiral. A cold clarity settled instead, like stepping into crisp air after a stifling room. "Thank you," I typed seriously. She sent a single heart. I opened the family group chat, the one filled with baby photos, bad jokes from Uncle Harold, and no messages to me since the party. The cursor blinked for a full minute. Then I typed, "Let me show you what your perfect daughter thinks of me." I attached Kay's screenshots, no explanation, just the raw truth. I hit send and watched the timestamp tick. 10 minutes passed, no replies. Then a single move, Aunt Martha left the group. No goodbye, just gone. That quiet exit told me more than any defense could. The seams of our family's facade were splitting, and I wasn't the only one who saw it. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was mine to wield. What do you do when the people who should love you most twist your pain into their inconvenience? After I exposed my sister Kay's venomous group chat in our family's digital sanctuary, I thought the silence would be my victory. But silence, I learned, can be a weapon turned back on you. In the days that followed my mother Judith's call and a tense meeting with Kay pushed me to confront the lies head-on, while an unexpected visit from Grandpa Harold lit a spark of hope in the ashes of my trust. This was the moment I stopped begging for truth and started demanding it. The family group chat stayed dead quiet after Aunt Martha's exit, a void that echoed louder than any argument I was microwaving leftover curry when my phone lit up Judith's name, a rare sight. I let it ring, the hum of the microwave masking my hesitation. She called again, insistent, so I tapped, accept, bracing myself. "Camilla." She began, her voice dripping with that rehearsed softness. "I wish you hadn't posted that. You've upset your sister deeply." The words hung like damp laundry, heavy and unwanted. I let them linger before replying. "You mean the sister who humiliated me after I paid for her party?" Judith sighed, all exasperation. She was emotional. It was her day. I leaned against the counter, the linoleum cool under my palm. For me, it was the day I learned you'd rather erase me than face a flicker of discomfort. She deflected sharp now. We were keeping things peaceful. Why drag up every little thing? Kay's younger figuring it out. Be the bigger person. The phrase stung a tired script I'd heard too often. When did you last wish me a happy birthday, Mom? Silence. Her pause was louder than any apology. That's not fair, she mumbled. It's not about fairness, I said, voice steady. It's about choice. I hung up before her next excuse could land the click of the call's end, a small rebellion. Days later, I sat across from Kay in a downtown Minneapolis cafe, its exposed brick walls a neutral stage for our standoff. She arrived late, draped in curated loungewear sunglasses perched indoors. Migraine, she quipped, smirking as I gestured to the lenses. The air between us crackled taut as a wire. I'm not here to scream, I said, folding my hands. I'm here to warn you. Twist my story again, and I won't stay quiet. Kay rolled her eyes, glancing at her phone. God, you're so dramatic. This isn't court. I leaned forward, voice low. You deleted my name from every thank you, gave Mom credit for my money. That's not forgetting. That's theft. She waved me off. Mom made sure the checks cleared, I snapped. She made sure I paid her directly. That's what she ensured. Kay raised her hands, mock surrender. If it means that much, I'll add your name somewhere. But this storm you're stirring, it's not a good look. I stood chair scraping the floor. Neither is lying. She didn't follow as I left the cafe doors chime, a final note in our fractured duet. That evening, a knock broke the stillness of my apartment. Grandpa Harold stood on my porch, a pink bakery box in hand, lemon poppy seed, muffins inside. His eyes, creased with years, held a quiet knowing. We weren't invited either, he said, settling into my worn armchair. Judith said we'd steal Kay's spotlight. My chest tightened, grief sharp behind my eyes. They said you talk too much, I whispered. He shrugged, biting into a muffin. I talk about what matters. They don't want that heard. We sat no TV, just the clink of his coffee mug. The kind of quiet that stitches wounds. You're not crazy, he said before leaving his hand on my shoulder. Don't let them make you feel it. His words lingered a tether to something solid as I faced the battles still to come. How far would someone go to bury the truth you've just begun to unearth? After confronting my sister Kay and my mother Judith, I thought I'd drawn a line in the sand, a boundary forged in the quiet strength Grandpa Harold's words had kindled. But Kay didn't retreat. She sharpened her claws, striking not just at my heart, but at my livelihood. What came next wasn't just betrayal. It was a calculated attempt to paint me as the villain in a story I'd funded with my sacrifices. In a single email, Kay tried to rewrite my reality, but I turned to a wider stage, letting the world see the truth through a screen's unblinking eye. It was a gray Tuesday morning, the kind where Minneapolis feels like it's holding its breath. I was at my kitchen table coffee cooling when an email from Ellie, an HR acquaintance from a past contract job, blinked into my inbox. The subject line, chilling concern regarding employee behavior, sent a shiver down my spine. I opened it, and there it was, Kay's name signed at the bottom like a brand. I'm concerned about Camilla's recent behavior, she wrote. She's been emotionally erratic, posting about family online, exhibiting patterns of harassment. I fear for our safety, and this should be on record, should things escalate. Each word landed like a stone, deliberate, polished, meant to stain. This wasn't a private jab. It was a professional guillotine sent to a workplace where my reputation still lingered, where future doors might have opened. My hands trembled not with fear, but with a fury so cold it felt like clarity. Kay hadn't just mocked me, she'd tried to erase my credibility, to make me unhireable, unstable, a threat. I didn't scream, I didn't call her. Instead, I opened a folder on my laptop, one I'd started months ago when the weight of their lies first pressed too hard. Screenshots of Venmo transfers $750 monthly for rent, $200 per semester for tuition, texts from Kay, emoji laced. Thanks for the car insurance I'd covered when Judith forgot, payment confirmations emails, and a digital trail of my quiet devotion. These weren't just receipts. They were proof of a life I'd poured into her future, unacknowledged, now weaponized against me. I logged into Reddit, my throwaway account, a silent refuge, where I'd lurked through others' family dramas, finding solace in shared pain. I knew how this platform worked, how truth could ripple if you laid it bare. My fingers hovered, then typed each word, measured, unadorned. My sister tried to have me kicked out of the graduation party I paid for. Then she wrote to my job saying I was unstable. Here's what happened. I chronicled it all. No embellishment, just facts. The $850 party, the security gate, Kay's dismissal, the group, chat's cruelty, my silent sacrifices. I attached screenshots, Venmo logs, Kay's texts, and the email to HR. I ended with a line that felt like exhaling after years. Underwater. Silence protects abusers. I'm done being quiet. I hit post, closed my laptop, and waited. The response didn't creep in. It surged. Within an hour, 1,000 upvotes, comments flooding. This is emotional abuse. You're not crazy. I've been there. My family used me too. You're brave for this. By noon, it hit the subreddit's front page. Strangers' words wrapping around me like a shield I hadn't known I needed. My phone buzzed Kay's number. I let it go dark. The screen's glow fading as I stared out my window, the city's pulse steady beyond the glass. This wasn't just my story anymore. It was a beacon, and others were answering its call. The weight of that moment shifted something inside me. I wasn't just fighting for myself now. I was fighting for every invisible scar carried by those who read my words. Kay's email had aimed to silence me, but it misfired, pushing me to a platform where my voice couldn't be deleted. The Reddit thread grew, each comment a crack in the facade my family had polished for years. I didn't know what Kay would do next, but I knew I'd meet it head-on, armed with a truth that was no longer mine alone to carry. What happens when the truth you've set free starts dismantling the lies others have built around you? After my Reddit post exposing Kay's betrayal went viral, I felt the world shift, strangers' voices amplifying my own. But my family didn't retreat quietly. They doubled down, rewriting me out of their legacy with a cruelty that cut deeper than any gatekeeper's dismissal. In the days that followed, a hidden document and a showdown stripped away, the last illusions leaving me to wield the truth, not just for myself, but for anyone who'd ever been erased. The Reddit thread burned bright, thousands of upvotes and comments piling up like kindling. This family is a masterclass in manipulation, one wrote. I hope she never gives them another second of peace, said another. My phone buzzed with Kay's call, but I let it fade, the silence. My first victory. Her Instagram went private. Stories vanished. Judith's Facebook locked tight. A digital retreat that spoke of panic. Then a voice memo from Jamie, a high school classmate tied to Kay's circle, landed in my inbox. 5 minutes of chaos, laughter, gum chewing. Then Kay's voice sharp. She's my ATM. She'll cave, always does. A quieter voice murmured, That's cold, Kay snapped back. Guilt is cheaper than gratitude. My stomach didn't twist. It settled, the truth, no longer a shock but a confirmation. I posted the memo to Reddit titled, Turns Out. I wasn't crazy, just surrounded by people who profited from the lie. The response exploded, comments quoting Kay's words like evidence in a trial. Aunt Martha left the family group chat again, her silence a quiet rebellion. Then one early morning the mail slot rattled. A brown envelope lay on my floor. No return address, my name scrawled in unfamiliar ink. Inside, a scanned will, my parents highlighted, annotated, and brutal. Every asset, every heirloom, every dollar went to Kay. My name wasn't mentioned, not even as a footnote. The air left my lungs, not from surprise, but from the starkness of their choice. I forwarded it to Grandpa Harold, who called within minutes. That's new, he said, voice low. 2 years ago, you were in it. Another call followed, Eleanor, a distant relative, whispering, Judith didn't tell anyone. Said you were too dramatic for anything real. I laughed, bitter, the sound echoing in my empty kitchen. 2 days later, I walked into Judith's house unannounced, the envelope in hand. Kay lounged on the couch, loungewear pristine, scrolling her phone. Walter sat at the dining table, newspaper open like a shield. Judith stood on the stairs, arms crossed, ready to lecture. I dropped the will between them. No theatrics. One honest conversation, I said, that's all I want. Judith opened her mouth, but I cut through. If your love was conditional, say it. If family means silence and service, admit it. Stop dressing it as care. Walter glanced up, eyes narrow. That's not fair. I held his gaze. What's not fair is rewriting history and calling it healing. Kay reached for her phone, but I warned, don't. If you're recording to make me look unhinged, wait till I'm gone. Her hand froze. Judith tried again. You don't understand. I shook my head. I understand more than you ever gave me credit for. I stepped back, the house's curated warmth, same photos, same furniture, feeling like a museum of lies. This place isn't mine, I said. I just funded the illusion. I left the doors click final. By evening, I'd uploaded the will to Reddit captioned, "Let's stop pretending this was ever about family." The thread ignited. This is next-level manipulation. She gave everything and got erased. Where do I send her flowers? Kay deleted her Instagram. Judith's Facebook vanished entirely. Eleanor texted, I didn't know I didn't. I half believed her, but belief wasn't my currency anymore. Harold called voice, steady. Proud of you. I stood at my window, the city's lights blinking out one by one, and felt the weight lift, not gone, but shared, carried by a chorus of voices who saw me when my family wouldn't. When you've torn down the walls others built to cage you, what do you create in their place? After exposing my family's lies, Kay's venom, Judith's erasure, the will that wrote me out, I found not emptiness, but space. Space to rebuild, to choose myself, to speak for others, still silenced. In the weeks that followed, unexpected allies and a new purpose anchored me, and I learned that truth doesn't just break chains. It builds bridges to those who've walked the same shadowed paths. This is how I found my voice, and why I'm asking you to find yours. 3 weeks after the Reddit firestorm, I parked outside a nonprofit office in Minneapolis, its creaky floors and peeling paint, a far cry from the Bloomington Estates Polish. My desk was bare. No photos, no clutter, just a clean slate. As director of outreach, I chased grants, emailed shelters, and planned Zoom calls with purpose, not dread. The salary was modest, the hours flexible, the mission mine. Marlene and Adrian visited one rainy morning with damp curls and hesitant smiles. Adrian handed me an envelope, $60 cash a note in his neat script. One lunch for each month. I acted like you didn't matter, I failed you, he said. Voice cracking. Marlene shrugged. I thought you were intense. Now I know you were just outnumbered. We sat in my front room, no forced apologies, just a quiet that felt like mending. Later. Harold dropped by a diner, its burnt coffee scent clinging to cracked red booths. I heard Judith and Walter last week, he said, mug steady in his hands. They laughed like spinning you out was a game. His eyes held mine. They think people forget. They're wrong. My phone buzzed at lunch, Harold like clockwork. You eat yet? I smiled about to. Working too hard, no harder than I want. His laugh warmed the line. Eleanor stopped by with muffins, no grand gestures, just thought you might be too busy. Her eyes softer now saw me in a way they hadn't before. No one said, sorry, not Judith, not Walter, not Kay, and I didn't need them to. Their absence was clarity enough. Then an email from a downtown college invited me to speak on a resilience panel. We've followed your posts, they wrote. Your story could reach students who feel invisible. I stared at the screen, then typed, I'd be honored. It wasn't about reliving pain. It was about giving voice to those still searching for words. One Friday, I claimed my usual cafe table by the window, a muffin, and a second coffee for no one in particular. I scrolled past Kay's locked profile. Comments faded her silence. A ghost I no longer chased. I journaled instead ideas for the panel names of women to invite, a quote I'd carried. You do not have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I underlined it, the pen's scratch. A quiet vow that evening, passing a glass storefront, my reflection caught me, not weary, not bitter, just whole. Harold called, prattling about his garden, a neighbor's dog digging holes. I laughed, the sound lighter than I'd thought possible. Before bed, I turned off the light, left the window open, and slept. Without fear of the morning, I used to think peace meant swallowing pain, that loyalty was measured by how much you could endure. But silence doesn't make you noble. It makes you invisible. Speaking up isn't revenge. It's reclaiming your place, saying I was here. I mattered to anyone watching who's felt dismissed, diminished, erased in their own story. You're not alone. You don't need permission to exist. The quietest choices, walking away, standing firm, echo loudest. So tell me, have you ever chosen yourself over silence? Watched someone else be erased and stayed quiet? Would you choose differently now? Drop a comment, share where you're from, or just a one if this resonates. If this story stirred something in you, reminded you that your truth matters, hit subscribe. We don't just tell stories here, we tell truths, and yours is waiting to be heard.